JPrinceSr completely. And it all started the moment his own son, JPrinceSr, was reportedly pulled into the Takeoff murder case. The man known for decades of power and control suddenly couldn't hold it together. In that emotional moment, JPrinceSr made one statement about that night in Houston. A statement people are now using to question everything. The night everything changed. Takeoff's real name was Kirsnick Kerry Ball. He was 28. He was one-third of the hip-hop trio Migos alongside his uncle Quavo and cousin Offset. He was born on June 18, 1994 in Lawrenceville, Georgia. The group formed in 2008, broke through nationally in 2013 with the viral hit Versace, and reached the top of the Billboard 200 with their 2017 album Culture. Takeoff was widely regarded within the industry as the technically skilled backbone of Migos. Less visible than his bandmates, but essential to their sound. Weeks before his death, he and Quavo had dropped their collaborative project Only Built for Infinity Links on October 7, 2022. On November 1, 2022, he was shot and killed in downtown Houston. The shooting happened outside 810 Billiards and Bowling located in the 1200 block of San Antonio Street in Houston's Green Street development. A private after-party had taken place inside the venue. That party was hosted by JPrinceSr, the son of Rap-A-Lot Records founder J. Prince. Around 40 people attended. Takeoff and Quavo were among the guests. They were in Houston because JPrinceSr was being honored with a surprise J. Prince Day by the city of Houston. And Quavo, who was tight with J. Prince, had come down to support his brother on that occasion. Earlier that evening, Quavo had posted social media content showing him driving around Houston celebrating. The evening was supposed to be a celebration. It ended in a body bag. The party inside wound down around 1 a.m. The group moved outside to a third-floor balcony area. A dice game was underway. An argument broke out among some of the attendees. Around 2:34 to 2:40 a.m., at least 2 guns were fired. Security guards at the venue heard the gunfire, but did not witness the shooter. Traffic videos of the aftermath circulated rapidly online. A local nurse who lived nearby heard the shots and rushed to the scene to render aid, but Takeoff was already gone. Takeoff was hit. He was not involved in the dice game. He was not part of the argument. Houston police described him as an innocent bystander. He was found dead at the scene with multiple gunshot wounds. An autopsy confirmed penetrating wounds to the head and torso. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. 2 other people were injured, a 24-year-old man and a 23-year-old woman, both with non-life-threatening injuries. Quavo was not hit. HPD Chief Troy Finner held a press conference that same day. He stated there was no reason to believe Takeoff was involved in anything criminal. He called on witnesses to come forward and urged the hip-hop community to police ourselves amid the tragedy. The Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission also launched a review of the venue's liquor permit. Quavo was reportedly seen walking away from the area moments before the shots rang out, unharmed, but about to learn that his nephew was gone. The party was JPrinceSr's event. The guest who died was Takeoff. The host's father was JPrinceSr. And from that point forward, every word JPrinceSr said in public would be examined, not just as grief, but as a defense. On the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, the Prince family sat down to tell their version of what happened that night. Mike Prince, who was present during the shooting, spoke first about what the atmosphere was like before everything went wrong. It really wasn't a situation to escalate because it wasn't there. Mike explained that the night had been calm. People were talking, joking around, discussing basketball. It was not the kind of environment where you'd expect gunfire. You know, it was really a beautiful night. You know what I'm saying? We all family. We enjoying everybody kicking it. You know what I'm saying? But then someone turned a conversation into a confrontation. JPrinceSr would later place the blame on one man, a Quavo associate who, according to the Prince family, struck someone during a dispute about basketball, escalating a misdemeanor into a felony. That decision set off the chain of events that ended with Takeoff dead on the ground outside a bowling alley. The worst thing to me is this clown that came here. I wish he would have never came with Qual. JPrinceSr did not hold back. He said the associate later identified in police reports as Willie Bland was the root cause of the entire tragedy. I wish he would have never brought this into Houston because he can't think. And then he said something that stopped the room cold. I wish that bullet would have hit him instead of Takeoff because he was the one that deserved that. That line summed up the depth of JPrinceSr. His grief and anger not at his own family but at the man he believed lit the fuse on a bomb that killed someone he loved. In JPrinceSr's eyes, the night was never supposed to go this way. His son hosted a party. His guests came to celebrate. And one man's decision to swing on someone at a dice game turned a gathering of 40 people into a homicide investigation that would stretch across years and drag the Prince family name through the most intense scrutiny it had ever faced. But before the conspiracy theories could take hold, the police had a shooter to find. The investigation and the man charged. After the shooting, Houston police moved quickly to piece together what happened. The investigation relied heavily on extensive downtown surveillance footage from multiple cameras, which captured the sequence of events from multiple angles. Detectives collected additional forensic evidence that would become central to the case: a wine bottle left at the scene, fingerprints recovered from it, phone records, and license plate data from a vehicle that fled the area in the aftermath. On November 22, 2022, the first arrest connected to the shooting was made. 22-year-old Cameron Joshua, also known as Lil Cam Fifth, was arrested and charged with unlawful carrying of a weapon. Surveillance footage and witnesses placed him at the party with a firearm. However, authorities stated he was not believed to have fired the shots that killed Takeoff. His attorney maintained that Joshua did not shoot anyone. Then came the arrest that made national headlines. On December 1, 2022, 33-year-old Patrick Xavier Clark was arrested and charged with murder. Clark was taken into custody during a traffic stop on Houston's East Side. Prosecutors described him as a flight risk for good reason. He had applied for an expedited passport with travel plans to Mexico and was found carrying a large amount of cash. Court documents indicated that surveillance video showed Clark firing a gun toward a group of people while holding the wine bottle in his other hand. He allegedly left the bottle behind at the scene, and his fingerprints, vehicle data, and other forensic evidence linked him directly to the shooting. Police reiterated what they had said from the beginning. Takeoff was not the intended target. He had no involvement in the dice game argument that sparked the violence. Clark's initial bond was set at $2 million. He posted a $1 million bond on January 5, 2023, and was released under conditions that included surrendering his passport and wearing a GPS ankle monitor. His attorneys consistently maintained his innocence, with some reports referencing a self-defense claim in the broader context of the chaotic shooting. Clark was formally indicted by a Harris County grand jury on May 25, 2023 on a murder charge that carried 25 years to life if convicted. The pretrial process stretched across years, plagued by delays, including a rescheduled hearing in December 2025 that was pushed to January 2026. No plea deal was reached. As of February 2026, Clark's murder trial was scheduled with jury selection beginning November 5, 2026, and the trial itself set to start November 9, 2026. In the meantime, Takeoff's funeral and memorial events unfolded in Atlanta. A private commemoration was held on November 10, 2022, followed by a public celebration of life at State Farm Arena on November 11, featuring performances and tributes from Offset, Quavo, Cardi B, Drake, and others. He was buried at Peachtree Memorial Park in Peachtree Corners, Georgia. His death prompted widespread tributes across the music industry and renewed discussions on gun violence and hip-hop. Quavo later became an advocate against gun violence in the wake of the loss. Meanwhile, a complication emerged in the background. In 2024, a former forensic analyst involved in broader Harris County cases faced scrutiny for evidence handling issues, leading to Brady notices in hundreds of cases. The direct impact on Clark's trial remained tied to ongoing proceedings, but it added another layer of uncertainty to an already drawn-out legal saga. Back on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, JPrinceSr had already addressed what he believed was the root of the problem. He laid it all at the feet of Willie Bland, the Quavo associate whose police report, the Princes argued, was filled with lies. You know what I mean? This dude is the root of this. JPrinceSr then broke down the police report in detail, reading from Bland's own statements to the room. That he'd seen these two guys with guns earlier. But these the same two guys that he decided he were going to punch. The implication was clear. If Bland saw armed men and still chose to hit one of them, the resulting gunfire was a foreseeable consequence of his actions. And the person who paid the price was Takeoff. JPrinceSr went further. Reading from the police report on the podcast, he noted that Bland had stated he obtained his firearm from JPrince, who had provided one from the truck to make sure Quavo's group had protection while visiting Houston. The logic the Princes laid out was simple. Why would you give someone a gun and then try to rob them? The police report, as the Princes read it aloud, painted Bland as an instigator whose reckless actions turned a peaceful night into a murder scene. And JPrinceSr made the analogy that stuck. If two men rob a bank and police shoot an innocent bystander while responding, the charge goes to the men who robbed the bank. Who do you think get that charge? The person that shot that innocent person, or the root of the situation that were robbing that bank because they are the root? That framing, the root became JPrinceSr. His entire thesis on who was to blame for Takeoff's death. It was not about the gun. It was about the hand that started the chain reaction. And it was a framing that would become increasingly important as the internet began constructing a very different version of events. One that placed the blame not on Willie Bland but on the Prince family itself. A father's grief. JPrinceSr speaks. 2 days after the shooting on November 3, 2022, JPrinceSr broke his silence. He posted a lengthy statement on Instagram alongside a photo of Takeoff. The words carried the weight of a man mourning someone he considered family while simultaneously bracing for the firestorm of speculation he knew was coming. He wrote that the Prince family wanted to send condolences to Takeoff's family and friends, describing Takeoff as a brother, a son, a role model, and a God-loving human being. He called it a heartbreaking loss, one that people across the globe were paying for as a price of love. He then made his position crystal clear to whoever was responsible. He wrote that he did not tolerate dumb shit, stating that whoever put that bullet in his little nephew's head could not hide behind, beside, or anywhere near him. He said he spoke those words without knowing whose bullet was responsible. He called the root of the tragedy foolish and said it had to be owned by the fool. He also addressed the graphic videos circulating online, writing that this shouldn't have been recorded and this damn sure shouldn't be circulating across social media for family, friends, and fans to see. He said he had known Takeoff, Quavo, and Offset for many years, and that there had been nothing but mutual love between the families. That Instagram post functioned as both a eulogy and a boundary. Grief lined with a warning. But the real emotional reckoning came months later when JPrinceSr sat down with his son and nephew Mike Prince for the $1 Million Worth of Game interview. This was not a press release or a carefully edited statement. This was raw. The first thing JPrinceSr did was speak about Takeoff's mother, and you could hear the pain shift from general mourning into something deeply personal. And definitely to Takeoff mother, you know what I mean? Because I put her at the top of the list because it's an unnatural thing to lose your kid. You know what I mean? I felt all kinds of pain. He paused after that. The word unnatural sat in the air like it had nowhere to go. He explained that he had felt all kinds of loss in his life, his own mother, his father, brothers, sisters, cousins, and best friends, but that burying a child was a category of pain that stood apart from everything else. You know, to lose your child is a whole different kind of pain. So, I sympathize with that to the fullest because that's what you call unnatural. This was not a man performing grief for cameras. This was a father imagining himself in the shoes of another parent who would never see their son again. He had buried family members before. parents, siblings, cousins, friends. But the idea of burying a child was something he could only describe as unnatural. A word he kept returning to like it was the only one heavy enough to carry the weight of what had happened. And the horror of it was that his own son had hosted the event where it happened. That guilt, whether spoken aloud or not, permeated everything JPrinceSr said from that point forward. He also addressed the state of the night before the tragedy struck, painting a picture that stood in sharp contrast to the chaos that followed. If you don't make that move, then the night is everybody's still here and live to see another day. And you know what I mean? It's bubbly and lovey-dovey. In his telling, the night was supposed to end with everyone going home safe. There was no tension between the Migos and the Prince family. There was no setup. There was only one man who made a decision that turned a party into a crime scene. And for JPrinceSr, that truth was both a defense and a source of agony because the outcome was the same regardless of who was at fault. Later in the same interview, he addressed the swirling rumors about his family's relationship with Quavo, making it clear that the bond had not been broken. Ain't nothing changed where my love is concerned, where Quavo is concerned. So, he said there would come a day when Quavo would have the opportunity to confirm everything the Prince family was saying, that they never abandoned him, never disrespected Takeoff, and stayed with Quavo for hours after the shooting. You know, it's love here and I look forward to that coming back together soon. But the warmth he extended to Quavo did not apply to everyone. In the same interview, JPrinceSr turned his attention toward Offset and his tone shifted from grieving father to something colder. He accused Offset of throwing rocks and hiding their hand, speaking publicly and taking positions despite not being close to Takeoff when the rapper was alive. Don't never put me in no position where, you know, I have to defend myself. You know what I mean? That wouldn't be healthy for you. And you know, I have to say that I hate, but it's $1 million worth of game. That warning landed like a threat wrapped in a handshake delivered on a podcast with millions of listeners directed at a man who had lost his group member. It revealed something important about JPrinceSr's mindset. He was grieving, yes, but he was also guarding his family's reputation with the same intensity he had used to build his empire over 3 decades. But while JPrinceSr was expressing love and grief, the internet was already building an entirely different narrative, one that would drag his son's name far deeper into the case than any official investigation had. The conspiracy theories and the viral video. Almost immediately after Takeoff's death, conspiracy theories began circulating across social media platforms, YouTube channels, Reddit forums, and hip-hop discussion circles that reframed the shooting as something far more sinister than a stray bullet at a dice game gone wrong. The central target of these theories was Prince Jr., the man who hosted the party, the man whose family name carries decades of influence and controversy in Houston's rap ecosystem, and the man who was captured on viral video walking past Takeoff's body in the immediate aftermath. That video became the single most damaging piece of footage for the Prince family's public image. A few seconds of Prince Jr. moving past Takeoff's body on the ground without visibly stopping, without apparent urgency, was clipped, shared millions of times, and interpreted by online audiences as evidence of cold detachment or worse, complicity. The optics were devastating, and no amount of explanation seemed to undo the damage. On the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, Prince Jr. addressed the video directly. He explained that the clip captured only a fraction of what actually happened, that he had been inside paying a bill when the shooting occurred, and that when he walked past, he was heading to the restroom with Mike Prince so Mike could wash Takeoff's blood off his hands. They took 3 seconds of a situation where I was caught on video and turned it into what they wanted it. He said that in reality, he and Mike had been with Takeoff for the better part of the day and that the night was supposed to be a family gathering, not a farewell. But in that 3-second clip, it was me and Mike walking to the restroom so he can wash the blood off his hands and so he can enlighten me. But the damage was already done. The viral clip had been weaponized, and JPrinceSr himself later called social media's portrayal of his son one of the biggest lies. The lie being that Prince Jr. appeared heartless and didn't care. According to the family, the full sequence showed JPrinceSr reaching behind Takeoff's head to administer aid, spending time with the rapper's body, and being so shaken that he needed to wash the blood off himself. Beyond the video, the conspiracy theories grew into a sprawling web of allegations. One of the most persistent threads involved claims that JPrinceSr ran or facilitated loaded dice scams, high-stakes gambling operations that lured in rappers and high-profile figures under the guise of socializing, only for the games to be manipulated with weighted dice and the chaos to be exploited for robbery or worse. Online commentators, including figures like Whack 100, amplified these narratives, connecting Takeoff's death to the separate killing of Duke the Jeweler as evidence of a pattern. Other theorists pointed to the Prince family's broader legal and business connections as proof of a coordinated system of protection. JPrinceSr's own public accusations against Willie Bland, claiming Bland lied to police about the events, including fabricated fears of a robbery attempt on Quavo, were reinterpreted by theorists, not as a father defending his family, but as an effort to discredit witnesses and steer the investigation away from the hosts. Industry feuds between Migos and the Prince family's Rap-A-Lot empire were layered on top, with some theorists framing Takeoff's death as a power move in ongoing Atlanta-Houston rap dynamics. Some forums even pushed ritualistic sacrifice narratives rooted in esoteric conspiracy thinking, claims that Takeoff's death was an orchestrated elimination tied to power structures in the music industry. On the podcast, JPrinceSr directly addressed the Duke the Jeweler comparisons, stating plainly that he did not know the man before the night in question. "I had no knowledge of him. I ain't know he from Chicago. I ain't know he was a jeweler until social media start trying to point a finger because he was standing next to me and it's just unfortunate." The Prince family's defense was consistent. The event was a normal gathering. The violence was triggered by an outsider's actions, and the Princes stayed with Quavo in the aftermath rather than fleeing. On the podcast, Mike Prince confirmed that he stayed with Quavo for 2 to 3 hours after the shooting, making sure he was safe before they parted ways. JPrinceSr added that he was the one who made sure Quavo got where he needed to go, and JPrinceSr addressed the broader narrative that the Prince family ran Houston like a toll booth, requiring artists to check in when they visited the city. He dismissed it outright, calling it sucker behavior that had nothing to do with how they operated. The Princes had a track record of over 30 years, he said, hosting people with love and respect. And nothing like Takeoff's death had ever happened under their watch. "We ain't never had nobody to attack us, if you know what I mean. You know when a man attack a situation with a weapon, then you know it become a playing field where you know any and everything goes." That was the line the Prince family drew in every interview. The violence was not something they created or enabled. It was something that was done to them and to Takeoff by a man who did not think before he acted. But the conspiracy theories operated on a different set of rules. One where proximity equaled guilt and where family connections to powerful attorneys meant something far more sinister. And that last point, the lawyers, would soon explode into the biggest controversy yet. The lawyer switch that changed everything. In March 2026, roughly 8 months before his scheduled trial, Patrick Xavier Clark made a move that sent shock waves through hip-hop media. Court records filed around March 20, 2026 revealed that Clark had replaced his prior defense team in favor of 3 Houston criminal defense heavyweights, Kent Schaefer, Anthony Osso, and Dan Cogdell. On the surface, upgrading your legal team before a murder trial is not unusual, but the identities of these specific lawyers turned a routine procedural move into an optics disaster for the Prince family. Kent Schaefer has represented J. Prince himself in prior high-profile matters. Anthony Osso has similarly been part of the Prince legal orbit. Dan Cogdell rounds out the team as another seasoned Texas criminal defense attorney aligned with influential local figures. The question that immediately exploded across social media was simple. Why would the man accused of killing Takeoff at JPrinceSr's party now be defended by JPrinceSr's lawyers? Rapid-fire posts on platforms like X and Instagram framed this as proof of a hidden connection. The same family that hosted the party where Takeoff died now appeared through their legal network to be indirectly supporting the defense of the man charged with killing him. Hip-hop outlets reported the switch extensively, with every article pointing to the same uncomfortable question. What is the nature of the relationship between Clark and the Prince family? For conspiracy theorists, this was confirmation of everything they had been saying for 3 years. If Clark was operating within or adjacent to the Prince circle, then providing him with the family's legal shield could be interpreted as an effort to ensure his defense strategy minimizes any spillover scrutiny onto the host. In this reading, Clark is not just a defendant. He is a protected asset. For those closer to the legal process, the implications are no less consequential. The hiring of Prince-connected counsel raises questions about potential conflicts of interest, particularly if Clark's defense involves cross-examination of witnesses who might discuss the events. Security lapses or attendee vetting, both of which fell under the host's purview. And then there's the question of timing. The switch came just as pretrial motions and discovery battles were intensifying ahead of the November 2026 trial. Prosecutors are leaning on surveillance video, ballistics, phone records, and witness statements. By bringing in attorneys who know the Prince family's legal landscape inside and out, Clark's team now has access to a network of knowledge that goes far beyond ordinary trial preparation. JPrinceSr, for his part, has continued to maintain the same position he has held since November 2022. His family was not involved. The shooting was caused by an outsider, and the Princes loved Takeoff like one of their own. In a January 2025 recap of his earlier statements, he once again called social media's portrayal of his son a lie, reiterating the full-day companionship, the 8 attempts, and the blood-washing episode as evidence of loyalty, not indifference. But the lawyer switch has made the defense harder to sustain in the public eye. The same man who spent 3 years saying his family had nothing to do with Takeoff's death now has to contend with the fact that the accused killer is being represented by his own former attorneys. Whether that connection is purely professional or something more layered is a question that the courtroom will have to answer. Every public statement JPrinceSr has made since November 2022 has carried a dual weight. Genuine grief for a young man taken too soon and a fierce determination to keep the Prince name on the right side of the narrative. On the podcast, JPrinceSr's final words on the matter carried the tone of a man who believed the truth would eventually surface, but who also understood that the court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict. You know, there's going to come a day, there's going to come a time that everything we saying, Quavo going to have the opportunity to bear witness that this is the truth. The trial of Patrick Xavier Clark, now set for November 2026, will be watched not just as a murder case, but as a public reckoning with the questions that have haunted this story from the beginning. Was Takeoff's death a random tragedy at a party, or is there something beneath the surface that the Prince family's legal connections now make impossible to ignore? On the podcast, JPrinceSr closed with a message that echoed beyond the case itself. A plea to the entire hip-hop community to protect the culture that had given them everything. Stop slipping, man. Take advantage of these blessings you got and take care of you and yours, man. And I just want to say, once again, condolence to the whole quality control. For JPrinceSr, the loss of Takeoff was not just about one night in Houston. It was a symbol of everything that goes wrong when the people around talent fail to think, fail to protect, and fail to understand that one moment of violence can erase decades of work. Whether his family bears any responsibility beyond hosting the event remains a question for the courts. But the grief he carries and the weight of defending his son's name while mourning a young man he called family is something no verdict will resolve. The answers are still months away, but the questions are not going anywhere.